I've had deals that I've never even talked to the person. They texted me and said, "Hey, I'm mailing your contract back." I say, "Okay, great. When can I said, here's the title company. I'll email them back. Here's the title company's name. They're going to reach out to you. They'll have you sign and you'll get your check through them." They're like, "Okay, great. Thanks."
This is the real estate investing experience. We get it. Real estate can be rough sometimes, and that's why we bring in the experts to talk about the experiences you won't hear anywhere else with your hosts, John Cohen and Chris Grinzik.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Investing Experience. I'm your host, Chris Grenzig. With me, as always, is John Cohen. How we doing?
We're doing good. I think so. I think big just family bullshit on the property that we own that they just don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. But other than that, we're doing great.
Yeah, that's good. I think that's a property you guys will never do anything with more than what's going on right now.
Nothing
Despite the potential.
What's going to happen, too many cooks in the kitchen, and the fucking cooks are cooking. They're slicing apples when they're playing in a game, cooking, beef Wellingtons.
Yeah.
It's just, they should listen to people that know what they're talking about and not think they know everything. And they're negotiating from no strength. It's just a fucking debacle.
Yeah. Now you're starting to understand now what the shit people have to deal with is from the other side of the
Oh my God. Something. Yeah.
I can't even imagine the people that buy stuff in New York, the shit they fucking deal with.
No, and I've chalked this one up as a loss. I really don't give a shit what happens. I have no, whatever happens, right? For me, I have no interest. I was looking after my mom's best interest, and now they're, it's just they're unsophisticated individuals dealing with people way more sophisticated with that, and they're not listening to someone that's sort of in the business.
I think it's interesting too, because now having watched this for 2 or so years go back and forth, you hear people about like creative solutions and trying to find something that makes sense for other people. It's not always, every deal you buy through a broker in, Florida, Georgia, Carolinas, it's just, here's the price, take it or leave it. If you're going to go off market direct to owner, you got to be way more creative to get things done.
Absolutely.
I think there's tremendous more opportunity if you can find the pain points and then solve them. So just think it's interesting to see it from the other side. But we don't have a ton of time, so I want to jump right into it. We got 2 really great guests on today. Both, in the land game, partners that have been doing it for a while. I think we'll have some really interesting stuff to talk about, a different viewpoint than Mark, who we had on, and we'll kind of see if similar outlook, different game. I think it'll be really interesting. So with that being said, guys, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having us. Thanks for having us.
Awesome. Can you guys take, minute, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, just tell us, who you both are, introduce yourself, where you're from, kind of how you got into real estate and, what you guys are working on.
Yeah, I know. My name is Adam Southey. I've been in real estate off and on for about 15 years. I feel like I've literally done everything. I mean, I've been a wholesaler, realtor, fix and flip guy, landlord, and finally landed on land about 4 years ago. And
awesome.
That's been it for me since. It's been literally the best thing I've ever done. So I was working on the railroad at the time, and because the market had crashed, I got stuck holding a bunch of properties and needed a job. And I heard somewhere that someone was buying land for a couple $100 an acre, and they were selling it for a whole lot more. And I had to get in and try it. So right then I bought 3 2.5 acre parcels for $250, sold them all for $1,000 a piece, and I was hooked. And Justin, he saw what was going on and he jumped in too.
Yeah. What Adam forgets to say there is we had an Amazon business together. And he comes to my house. He's like, and I was working at the road. I was a general manager, or kind of a chief operating officer, but we're a short line, so you don't call it the same. But he's like, "Hey man, I'm buying this land for 5 acres for $500." I was like, "If you can buy 5 acres for $500, I'll buy everyone you can magically bring to me." Right? So we had an Amazon company, and so we're doing e-commerce. We have a couple number one items, first page items, and we're doing okay with it. And he goes, "All right, we need to liquidate the Amazon company. I'm going to get in real estate." And I'm like, "Yes, we're getting into real estate."
There you go.
And he goes, "Nah, man, I'm doing it on my own. I'm going to liquidate my half." And so as we've been best friends for 20 plus years. And when he said that, I'm like, okay. He's like, "But you can do it too." And so I watched what he was kind of going through. We went through it. My first direct mail campaign I sent out, I bought 21 properties, and that was a unreal amount. They were small desert properties. It was kind of like, oh shit, me and my wife, we were just sitting there like, wow, this really could work. Well, as luck would have it, 3 weeks into the receiving end of the marketing campaign coming back, me and my CEO, we decided to part ways. And he said, "Yeah, you no longer have a job." And I'm like, dude, I got this new company, got a family. What do we do? And we just turned around and went full force into it. 4 years later, we've got one of the first and only private funding companies for land. We've got a land company that still does tons of deals. We did 121 last year. And then we have a podcast where we talk about it, and of course where we teach people to do it. And we teach them how to buy what we've kind of coined the bass boat property, meaning the price point is about what a bass boat or a Harley Davidson or an RV, that recreational thing that all the guys like to brag about at the water cooler. We teach people how to buy that for 30 cents on a dollar, bring it to market, and get as much of that profit as you can, and kind of put that dream back out there.
Yeah, I want to interject real quick before we go any further. It's been 4 years, if you both say, and I still hear that story about how I wouldn't let him do it with me.
So first of all, that's awesome, because we have Chris brought up the land business to me about a year ago, maybe, give or take, right? We got a letter in the mail. We own a development site. Oh, nice. And we own the piece of property right next to it. We built student housing, and we got a letter for 20 cents on the dollar, and throw it in the garbage.
I don't know about 20 cents. It was way less. Than that.
Yeah, it wasn't even. We bought it for like $250,000, and someone offered us like $800. So it was like nice. Half of a fraction of a penny. So I threw it in the garbage. It's been really intriguing. So long story short, I dove in. I said, you know what, we're doing our thing. I have to give it a shot. So. We're like, I'm probably $8,000 into the land mailers. I'm just sending out mailers all over the place. I got no idea what I'm doing. But the way you broke it down was something that just, that price point is attractive. So I have to, are you guys partners together now, or are you guys running your own businesses separately?
Yeah, our land businesses are totally separate. And I'm going to say this because we don't really have it officially out, and I don't know when this airs. But we have a live event. It's got like 3 seats left in it. It's almost sold out. But we're doing what we call Project One. It'll be our first land deals that we do joint in a holding company together. Fantastic. But for 4 years, we've done it completely separate. Now we talk to each other. We're best friends. We talk to each other about our deals. We've wholesaled back and forth. But we run our land businesses differently, because Adam tends to shop for what we call terms deals, cash flow. I like big cash flips, and I like keeping that money just churning. I love the churn of that cash, or that velocity of cash, if you will.
No, that's super interesting, because that's why I thought, so I looked at it as, if I can run this thing on the side, it'd be interesting for the cash flow of flip. You could pick and choose your animal, but you guys know exactly what you're doing, and I know you're friends, and I'm going to ask a tough question. You guys know exactly what you want to buy. I know you're looking for flips and one guy's looking for cash flow, but how do you not, or do you, because you have different price points, cash flow and flip, do you guys compete in the same counties or locations, or you guys don't mind, or how does that work?
Well, so we don't really cross each other's paths, but even if we were working the same county, it wouldn't really matter, because there's so many different ways you can buy the land. So he may be shopping 20 acre and above that he can buy for 10, sell for 30, and I may be shopping a different part of that county, because counties are huge, price point is different. I may be shopping a different part of that county where I can buy it for $5 and then take $5 as down payment and owner finance it for $300 a month, where the total payment is $20,000, where it's at maybe where he's starting.
Yeah. And I'll go ahead.
Sorry.
Go. Yeah. One of the big things we get all the time is like, aren't we all going to run into each other because there's going to run out of property? So if I told you that, hey, I look at properties that range between $800 and $1,500 per acre, and I look what's on the market right now, there's about 240 counties in the country that have that. So if I made a list of that and I said, every month I'm going to mail 2 of those counties, we're still looking at a ton of time. We're looking at 10 years worth of mailing that's going to go out. Well, typically you're not going to 10-year run. You're going to go back to the counties that were hot for you probably every 2 or 3. So you're going to get in this flow. You're going to say, hey, I like the Tennessee area because I love the Smoky Mountains and I love this cabin property, and you're going to be able to sell that dream. So you can kind of build your machine to handle that. Now, one of the great things that you said, hey, how do I do this on the side, is when you get to that price point, we can hire a land broker. There's a couple companies out there that specialize all over the country in selling land. They're real estate agents, but they're land guys. And you buy at that price point, you start sending them leads. They start sending you anywhere in the state that's hot, and they'll just keep them full for you. And they handle showing the properties. They take care of the listings, the advertising for you. All you got to do is keep generating the deals. And that's where that mail comes in, that direct mail, like you said.
So I want to take half step back, because I think it was interesting where you guys were like, I focus on this and I focus on this, and that's, setting your criteria and what you're looking for. Can you guys break down a little bit, like what are some of the differences in properties that you can choose your criteria? Like one of them you just spoke about was, the number of acres, the price per acre. Can you talk about what some of the things that people can specify in to kind of say like, hey, this is the types of land I'm going to go after?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, well, there's quite a bit, right? So there's quite a bit of different things, but we have both moved kind of what's towards called a bass boat property, which we talked about earlier, right? And that's just a really pretty piece of property that, you would want to talk about but it's not so crazy expensive that you're spending $200,000-$400,000 on, it's 30, 40, 50 grand. But you can also go toward these smaller properties that are like most people shop when they're getting started. They'll go west of the United States. And this is desert properties that they're buying for $200 an acre or $100 an acre. And it literally looks like dirt. I mean, there's nothing pretty about it at all, but there's such a thirst for land in this country that people are buying that stuff up. I mean, there's always someone looking to buy no matter what. The first properties I bought, the 2.5 acre parcels, I swear I never thought I would have been able to resell them. They were so ugly. And I didn't even know if you could have got to them, but they sold almost immediately.
Yeah.
See, that's crazy because I know, my brother's sort of spearheading it. He sold his business and he's sort of in the weeds on it. I'm sort of just writing a check. So who's the idiot, right? But no,
yeah.
He brings me, sometimes he'll come over with a deal and I'm like, there's no way someone's going to buy that. That's just unsellable. And, we're figuring it out. But like you said, it's you hear that and it's just another, just buy it, right? Because there's an ask for that seat most likely, pending your pricing and you got it all right. And I think that's where we may have deviated a little bit because I'm a, shoot, ready, aim or whatever they say. Yeah. So I'm just throwing, hey, let's try this, let's try this, let's try this. But, it's intriguing to the concept of I'm going to go buy rural land or vacant land in the middle of X. You're going to get so much. Like you said, if you have 240 counties and you're doing 2 a month, even if you step on each other's toes, you're not going to step on each other's toes. There's so much of it available in so many different locations that you sort of have, you could people want to hide it, but you could tell people about it and it's just not. Whether it's 2 acres, 1 acre, 20, there's so many different criteria. And to Chris's point, if there's anything else, you can enlighten on as far as, understanding your criteria and what makes it work. I mean, anything like that is, just good to know, good to hear, and for people to hear as well.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. There's so many different lands. There's 3,400 counties in there. So if we said, hey, we just need to find a county to mail, it's hard to pick it that way. So for me, when I go out and start picking the type of properties I buy, I say, hey, I'm going to look at a state. So I've got 50 states to choose from. I've got some that I like, but I look at that. Then I say, what's in my price point? But so to your point, when you say, hey, the 1, the 2, the 5, a lot of times when you see 1, 2, and 5, somebody's come in and tried to develop that, whether they subdivided it, they put a surveyor out there and cut up the lots from the big sections that used to be at one point, or they've gone in and put roads on the 5 acres and they made these little ranchettes. You see them all through like Tennessee and Florida that have kind of went bust. But what we found is that if you say that 20 acres, you're going to get that for about the same price as you are the 5. And if you look on the market and you go, hey, I'm going to buy land in Florida, and you see 5 acres at $20,000, or you see 20 acres at $20,000, and you're wanting it for a recreational piece of property or something to get away from the city because you have your main house, that 20 acres looks real attractive at that point. You're like, oh man, I've got this place I can go take my camper, I can go take my family, set up the tent. Overlanding's real big right now where you camp in your car. And so you have my own camp spot in my car that's near this place or near that place. So you start selling these ideas and these dreams. Now, there are a ton of people that buy 1, 2, and 5 acre lots. When I mail out, I'll mail from 7 acres up to 200 or 300 acres, all relatively the same price point. And I get some really safe home runs in that 7 to 10 acre because I might get something that's been developed that the husband passed away and the wife doesn't want it anymore. And I'm getting it at that 20 acre recreational, the 6-pack per acre price versus when I'm just buying the 1 liter. And so it's a nice way to get a good safe home run. And we've seen those come in where I had a 10 acre in Nevada I bought for $1,000 and it sold for $9,000 the next day. And I got $1,000 down and payments out for the next 8 years on it. So you've got exit strategies galore. And it's cool because you can do it in any states. I've done it in 36 states. I did 21 states last year. So when people say, oh, you have to have this county list or this thing, that's not necessarily true if you understand the pricing game and you put enough mail out there that you're going to get leads back.
Yep. Yeah. That's that price for us is somewhere around $1,000 an acre too. And so we find that that's a really good price point. It's high enough to where if you have a good amount of acreage, you can hire a realtor to sell it. And it's also high enough that you got a nice property. And it's not too low that people won't want to accept your offer. And so a lot of times, this will work because when you're dealing with that smaller property, that $5,000, $10,000 property, realtors don't want to list it for you, right? So if someone wants to sell it, they either have to know how to do it themselves or they sell it to someone that sends them an offer.
Gotcha. And you guys are, it sounds like, and everything is just direct to owner through mailers, right?
Yep.
Do you guys ever do anything where you try to find phone numbers and cold call, or you've just found mailers is a significantly better way to go?
We haven't done any skip tracing. Like I've done some neighbor stuff where I've bought the property and I've reached out to the neighbors to find out, hey, you've got a gate, or you heard you got a land lease, and reached out that way, and that's a one-off deal. That's not in the mass bulk, but like this month, so far this month, I think I've sent out 20 for our thing that we have going is 21,000 pieces of mail. We'll end up sending 60,000 pieces of mail this month alone. Last month I did 10,000 pieces of mail. And so last year at the beginning of the year, I did 70,000 pieces of mail by like April, May, and I had enough property last me through the year and did 121 deals.
Jeez. Yeah. So you only sent in the beginning of the year, and then you didn't
have to send anything after that.
So I heard something similar just listening to different people and speaking to different people about it, and I think it's interesting that like there are times a year where people just like nothing's for sale, they're just like accumulating property to sell for the remainder of the year, where they knock it out up front, they basically cherry pick the deals they want to do, cherry pick 120 of them, and then you could basically hit pause on the spend, and then let your property sell off. Is that? Yep. Is there anything better or worse than just mailing every single month? Is it just personal preference?
It's a personal preference to me. Adam will get on a drift where he runs 1,000 to 2,000 a month, and he'll get in that flow and just keep going. For me, what I found is I'll get ebb and flows out of the way. So if I just upload and front load it, then I can focus on the other half of the business. And most of mine goes out to brokers now or real estate agents, and they take care of it, or I have a manager handling that. But the idea of I'd rather have like not drip into it and have everything sitting in front of me like, okay, hey, I've got all this food to eat. Now I just got to eat it, versus saying, hey, I hope I get a little more food tomorrow, because you are chasing a transaction. Yep. And so anytime you have to chase a transaction, if you're doing this full time and you don't have a good war chest, you can start to feel a little uneasy at times. You're like, oh man, I got a couple deals I need to buy. I got a couple in escrow. What am I going to get? What's going to happen? Versus, man, my inbound pipeline is full right now. And if I want to make it more full, I just keep adding mail. If it's too full, I just bleed it off and work through those deals.
Yeah, I think that it's strictly personal preference. But one thing's for sure is that's all we're doing is mail. We're not calling anybody. After we've found, at least in this industry, it's a complete waste of time. You send out 1,000, 2,000, 21,000 pieces of mail. You're going to get so many calls and emails, and you will cherry pick only the best ones. And it really, people know, because our offers are blind offers, people know what we're willing to pay before they even call us. It takes out all the negotiation, all the time. It just, still, I've done everything else because I told you I was come from a housing background. There's just no better way to do it, in my opinion.
Do you send out contracts, or would you want to sell your land, or you just different things?
Purchase and sales agreement attached to it.
They can sign it, send it back.
I've had deals that I've never even talked to the person. They texted me and said, "Hey, I'm mailing your contract back." I say, "Okay, great. When can?" I said, "Here's the title company." I'll email them back. "Here's the title company's name. They're going to reach out to you. They'll have you sign, and you'll get your check to them." They're like, "Okay, great, thanks. Pleasure doing business with you."
Incredible. It's crazy. And so, do you have one title company, or do you use a different title company in each state?
Typically, I try to find one in each state that can work, and that's if I have a good one in a state. That's my first question. Is after I've closed with them, and they did a really good job. If it's a new state for me, I'm like, "Hey, where else can you close in the state?" And sometimes they'll tell me all but these couple counties, or sometimes they'll say, "Hey, I'm only county specific or abstract state." Sometimes the attorney states, a lot of people in the land niche were really scared of up until about last year, and we go to them and they're like, "Hey, yeah, we can close anywhere. We know it's going to be mobile anyways or remote closing, so we'll go ahead and close with you." And we found that it's been advantageous to us. We keep one per state and maybe have two in different areas, just kind of depending on the state.
How important? Because I think people get scared because buying land, there's the environmentals and stuff like that. How important, obviously the price point is probably going to dictate how important something is, but can you speak to, some of the fears that you guys had, or that maybe, some people have when they're, do I need a phase one and a survey, and how much does title cost? I know it's all subjective per price, but can you speak to some of that? Cause I know that's some questions that I'm sure people are going to ask, cause it's a weird business, right? When you're buying a multifamily property or a single family house, it's by the book, play by play. I think when you start doing the land thing, there's a lot of, let's call it contrary, it's a different perspective. Can you speak to any of that stuff as what you guys do?
Mean, that's a great question. And for me, I'm super processed. I came from a railroad background. And I did that for 15 years prior to coming to this. So I'm very operational, like, hey, this is step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. So you're going to run into some things that are a little bit different with land, but like on a bigger ranch, you're going to get a survey and depending on the state, some states won't let you close without the survey. They won't record it, and they want to record a new survey every time you do that. But title is $1,200 at most. The most I've ever paid was when I had to do a quiet title and I had to fix 2 different transactions in that. And it cost me $3,500. It was 135 acres in Oklahoma. And I think I made $100,000 off of it in less than like 3 days or 4 days. So it's, that's the high end. For the most part, you're $800 to $1,200 on your closing cost. Your surveys, they do vary greatly because sometimes surveys haven't been done in an area. It's mountainous, and there is some old legal description that may say, hey, the pink rock or the yellow fence and next to Mrs. Debbie Ann's house, you're having to figure that out. And so a surveyor has to go try to put all that together. And sometimes the pink rock's gone. And so you can't get around that. And they do that with stuff for you in title. They'll handle exceptions and things like that for you. But it's it's the biggest thing we see is people are worried about, like you said, the something wrong with the property. Well, the cool thing about us in today's society is we have a time machine. We can go back in time and see what it looks like. Have you ever looked at Google Earth? You have that little clock on it. We have a satellite that's always going around the planet, right? You're looking at your picture of the property. You click that. You can go back up to like 1999. So you can see what the last 20 years of this property has done, and to give you an idea at different times a year and things like that. So we get to leverage technology in a place that typically you wouldn't think about it. You're like, hey, I'm not going to go look at a house for the last 20 years on Google Earth and see what it does. But land, you can watch and see if somebody's timbered it. If it's near a creek, has it ever flooded? Does it get snow in the winter? Does it not? What does the access look like? So you get a good feel of a piece of property over 20 years just by technology. That's a free website that we can use.
Yeah, a lot of the fears are just fears that people have in their head when they're brand new to this, right? Because you wouldn't get a survey on every property, especially if you're only paying $1,000 for it and it's worth 5 or 8 or 10. You wouldn't pay for a survey, and you probably wouldn't even close through a title company. You'd self-close it, and you'd look online at GIS software, Google Earth. You would know if it's got good access. You'd know everything about that property before you bought it, and you know that you're only paying $1,000, and every comp out there, you're looking at 10 different, 15, 20 different comps. They all say it's worth 7 to 10. Well, you're really limiting your risk, because you can always find someone at least to buy it from you for $1,000. Or if you're scared it's going to sit on the market for a long time, sell it at 3 or 4 instead of getting that 7 or 10. And you still make a smaller profit. You hold on to it less.
So a lot of the fear you could take out of it by understanding the dynamics behind the transaction. Like you said, you're buying a $3,000 property. Are you going to get, like self-close or something like that? You could take a lot of the fears out by, one, probably Googling it and asking questions to anybody you know, and 2, understanding, you're not buying a $17 million, 32-acre multifamily property where, with easements and a lot of shit that can go wrong. So you got to put it in perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's, a really interesting way for people to get into it. When did you guys start doing, some of the other stuff you guys built up, the sales and, the purchasing of land yourself, and then you guys have built other stuff around it. When did that start to shift, and what have you guys been doing with all that?
Yeah, so we first came was Plum, and that's Plum Investment Group. We do joint ventures on land. You find the property, bring it to us. I'll look at it. If it's got a 3 times value, has maintained access to it, I'll put up the money to buy the property for you based on just merits of the property. I don't have to know you or anything. We hold title. We have a joint venture agreement together. You sell it, we split the profits 50-50, and it's no money out of pocket. You have no interest. You don't carry. It's not like hard money. And that shifted. when I first got into this, luckily I had a little bit of cash just from jobs and saving and, doing other stuff. And everybody was always talking about, oh yeah, money will find you. Money will find you. Private money's everywhere. But if you ever look for private money in land, it's not everywhere. Now, unless you're in some of the groups and people are asking, or you've got a brother that's, big real estate investor and he's just throwing cash at you and just writing checks, you don't necessarily know where it's at. And I was like, man, I'm going to open this up and just say, hey, if you've got a problem, let's look at it. If it's a good deal, I'll put up the money. And that allowed me to scale more than just saying, hey, I'm going to send more mail. I can have 50 or 60 guys send a mail at one time that are bringing me the deals. I'm going to bring the best deals and fund the best deals, and I'm getting 50% of the profit. They're selling it. All I have to do is just check the boxes on it, make sure it's okay, run it through title. Everybody's good on the front side, and we let it go. So that started, man, we started that I started that in August of last year, this is 20, so August of 18. And it's been really pretty well receptive. And you started seeing a lot more private money coming up. People saying, hey, we'll do the deals if it's good too. And so that was neat. The podcast, we're 165-ish episodes now.
Yeah, the podcast came out almost exactly a year ago, and we do 3 a week.
Yep. So, and that's kind of more the coaching and teaching people, hey, there's other ways than just going by tax delinquent or pushing this way. There's a way to look at this and setting your business up to be, part-time if you have a full-time job, or doing this full-time. Because if you could sell one of those, buy for 10, sell for 30 once a month, so all you do is 12 a year, made 20 grand a month, you're living a pretty good life. There's not many people that make that kind of money. Now, if you mess up and you make 10 grand each deal, you just still made $120,000 that year. You're going to have cost and things in that, but you're still making $80,000, $90,000 a year and living a pretty good life. It's twice as much as a teacher makes. So it's just it's a different spin on something that's been out there for a while. Land's not new. It's been around forever. And there's been people trading land since the 50s and 60s when they did big subdivides and sold the American dream to everybody. But we put our own little spin on it, and we just kind of keep layering on that and saying, hey, how can we push us in the niche a little bit farther?
For sure. So I have a question. I don't want to cut you off, but I'm curious because I think that's a realistic goal that people can, look to accomplish. That being said, there's expenses that go into it. So what are the typical margins on a small, call it, land flipping business, whether it's yourself or you actually set one up? What can somebody expect to say, hey, if I'm going to do a deal a month, I'm going to make 10, 20 grand on that. What is the cost for, closing costs? And well, that's probably factored in, but like your mailing cost, any software cost, things like that. Cause it's not, $20K a month in your pocket. It's $20K minus whatever it costs to run that. What does that look like for people that are thinking about it?
It's going to be actually probably a whole lot cheaper than you think. I mean, to really run this business remotely, you got to have a GIS system, like a, MapRight or something like that. TerraStride. It allows you to look at the property online. Those range from $50 to $100 a month. You've got mail and data. You got to have the data. You got to know who to mail. We get that around 10 cents per record, and then the mail itself is around 50 cents per mailer, depending on how much you do. You can't get it cheaper. You have some technology things you can add on there, make it a little bit more expensive that help you out in the back end. But if you're sending 1,000 to 2,000 pieces of mail a month, you're looking at $700-800, and then $50 to $100 for your GIS.
No, it's seven. If you're sending 1,000 pieces of mail a month, it costs you 700. And the way we teach it, costs you $750 to run this business.
But then your parse software.
That's in there.
Right. But even if it's, let's go, go high, call it, $1,500. If you're talking about making $5,000-$10,000. That's a significant margin over that. So even if, you're saying it's less than that, that's interesting to hear. As you start to kind of scale, and let's say you're like, hey, I want to go to 5 a month. I want to go to 10 a month, and I really want to push it. What are some of like the additional things that you've seen help people be successful, whether it's like hiring VAs, system software, pipeline software, things like that? What's some of the stuff that's either helped you or helped, students or other people that you've seen do it successfully?
Start leveraging people around to use a title company, using realtors. When you're first getting started, you don't have a ton of money. You want to do everything. You self-close. Right. You don't, you self-close, you sell everything yourself. And as you expand to these bigger properties, you no longer have the time to sell them, right? So you hand everything over to a realtor. You're spending more money. And so you don't want to risk getting a bad property or some kind of title issue. So you give everything to a title company. And really, I mean, if you're doing 5 properties and you've got it going to title companies, got it going to realtors, it's not like it's a super involved business.
No,
it's really easy to get bored.
Yeah, you're upping your mail that's going out, so you're scaling there. So your cost is going to be a little bit more, but you're managing professionals that get paid to do what they do. So if you have a good land broker, you can sell this all yourself. Like we have our sell websites, we have access to the different listing services like your Lands of America, the MLS. You can do all that and accept all those phone calls. But when you start to get to where you're wanting to sell 5 a month, you're going to have an inventory because I'll just use my last 50 deals. Average hold time, money in to money out is 105 days. Average return on investment is about 105% right now. So that means for every dollar I put in, I'm getting an extra dollar back. And that's money in, money out, 105 days. Now, to do that in 50 days or 50 deals, average profit on that was about $11,000. And all those went through title. All of them went through a broker, and they closed on the backside through title. So, I mean, that was just pure profit into the pocket on those type deals. And so, you can set the business up like that. Your scale, like you said, you leverage the professionals around you, and you're not sitting there going out and trying to buy a bunch of VAs who don't quite get it because they keep adding people because people keep hiring them and they're getting paid $4 or $5 an hour. Using people who are actually professionals at their job.
I think that's where I like hearing that a lot better than everybody today outsource, give it to this person, give it to that person. Mm-hmm. You guys are going, I don't want to say the only people doing it. I tell people all the time, if you're going to hire someone to do something that you've never done, you're not going to know if they're doing a good job or not.
Yeah.
Do it yourself, right?
Yeah.
Do it yourself. And the reason why I thought it was an attractive business was exactly that. I knew my brother was capable. I did not think I was going to turn it into a $20 million a year business. I think it's awesome that my brother now wants to do this. I've been doing this for a long time. He was not. Now I find it, I could spend time with my family. If we can do 12 deals a year with a $10,000 profit, make sure it hits those metrics, we can split that money up and enjoy it while we're still doing our own things. And that's how I looked at it. I think that's what, if people look at it that way and they don't just say, I'm going to turn this into a $20 million empire with 17 employees or 50 employees. If you have no idea what you're doing and you go pay someone to do it, you're throwing money in the garbage because you don't know if they're doing a good job. They may be doing a great job, but you don't know, or they may do a horrible job. And like you said, a VA gets hired by 17 people. Yeah, you're paying them $4 a day, but there's 16 other people paying them $4 a day. And that's a lot of money for them. So I think that's a better approach than just handing it off to a VA to do everything. It's, just systematize it with people that are professionals and pay them. Don't try and nickel and dime everybody, because if you do the margins and you're spending $1,500 a month, there's plenty of money to go around. So I think that's a great piece of advice for people is this, do it yourself and figure it out first, and then look to scale with people as opposed to just giving it to someone to do it for you.
No, if you're building any sort of business, whether it's real estate or anything else, you can't hire somebody or outsource a system in that to somebody else unless you already know what you're doing.
Correct.
Or you're going to pay somebody else to teach them. And then you're just, you better hope that person knows what the hell they're talking about, which is, the whole consulting world. So yeah, it's not something you're going to go out and hire a VA in month 3 to start run it. But if you can do it for, 12 months, 18, 24 months, whether it's a VA, a realtor, or something like that, at some point you're going to hit that bottleneck point, and you've got to widen that gap and bring in somebody in. So if you don't know what you're doing, you absolutely have to, spend the time to understand it, first. Question for you guys, what are your thoughts now as we're getting, who the hell knows where the real estate market is going, but as we kind of get towards the later stages of it, I'm sure land is probably on the lower totem of things people are probably buying as money becomes tighter if we hit, any sort of recession or anything like that. How do you guys think about that? If you think about it at all, is there anything you guys are doing to kind of, diversify or maybe, lower some risk? How do you guys see that whole thing playing out? Or you guys see the market going, upwards for another 5 to 10 years?
I don't think we'll see the market continue to go up in the whole scheme of real estate in its entirety. We're going to have some kind of correction, whether it's after this election, next election. We don't know what that'll be. But for us, since we go and shop a county, I'm not shopping everything January 1st to mail on December. We're using actual market numbers before we send the mail out. So that if that market's trending down, you're following with it. And if you're offering 20 to 30 cents on the dollar, you're still coming under what market is, and you're still going to have a margin. Even if you said, hey, I'm going to make a 20 or 30% return, you're still selling it at half of what the market was from when you pulled the information less than a month ago, because they start receiving your offers within 3 weeks realistically. If I pull the information today, I send it to the printer, they're going to send me my proof back. Usually takes them 3 to 5 days, and then it takes 2 weeks for standard mail to hit. Then people are reading their mail going, oh shit, do I want to call these guys back or not? They start calling us back, and we start closing deals. We're 30 days out from there with a typical deal on title company. So now we're 6 weeks into it, and we're just not going to be like a bomb just dropped on us, and all of a sudden all our property we offered 30 cents on a dollar is worth less than that. If it dropped that fast, that quick, something big had to happen in the world. And I just don't see it by the way we do the transaction.
You had yourself with the, basically the cost of transaction, which is the smartest way to do it. You buy the deal at the right price, and you're going to be able to withstand anything. To back up that question on the financing side, because I think that's interesting. If you're, $1,000, $10,000, are you recording mortgages? Because if the financial world, if that blows up and someone can't make their payments, are you keeping title, land contract? How are you structuring the deal to prevent against a downturn or an unforeseen event?
Yeah, we use a land contract with a promissory note. So the land actually stays in our name at 30 days. If they haven't paid, then they're in default. They got 30 days to get current. And if not, cancel the contract and resell it.
Yeah, and that's typical. There's some deals where we'll do a deed of trust. If it's a higher end property, if you're $150,000, and you'll get some people that kind of balk at the land contract because it does have that penalty in there. If they're going to put a strong down payment down, look like a strong buyer, deed of trust isn't a bad way, and you can do a deed in lieu of foreclosure as well and hold that in trust for them. So there's some ways that you can limit your risk in that. The land contract is the easiest and most friendly way for us as an investor, though. That's the way 98% of them go.
All right, awesome. I think that was just a ton of information. I think it's a great place to end. I was gonna say if there's one, it was a quick, it was so good. Do you have any one war before we wrap it up? Any war stories or, hey guys, this is the other side of the coin, and it does, quick, 5 minutes. So, worst thing that's ever happened.
Yeah. So with land, it's, the worst thing you can ever happen is, for me, is you find a gate on your access. And, you look at this property, it looks great. You can see on Google Earth, it's got beautiful views. Then you send your drone pilot or your realtor out there and they run into a gate. So when I said earlier, when I fund deals, I said it has to have maintained access. Typically somebody doesn't put a gate across something that's being maintained by a county or HOA. So that's a quick risk, a way to mitigate your risk force, because if your person or your potential buyer can't get to the property, they're not going to buy it from you. So be very diligent in your access. If it's like, oh, it's got a 2-track trail that runs to it, I'm going to buy it. Some situations, so it's worth a gamble, but always focus on that access and make sure you have solid access. Don't just say, oh, it's physical, it looks legal. No, make sure it's maintained. You can get there, and that's where you start to see your profit margins, your property move faster. And the properties I've held the longest, somebody hasn't been able to get to it, or it's not as clean a way to get to it. You can't take your wife out there in her Lexus to get out there on it.
Perfect.
Awesome. We're going to wrap it up there. I know we got to kind of run. Thank you so much for coming on. Can you tell everybody, where they can get in touch with you, learn more about you, podcast, books, stuff like that?
Yeah, we got a podcast, Casual Fridays REI, comes out every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Or you got the website, casualfridaysrei.com, iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you can hear podcasts, you can find us. Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube as well.
Yeah, and one other thing for your listeners, we do have a book we call Coffee Money Real Estate Investing. You can find it on Amazon, but for your guys, we have it on our website. It's coffeemoneyrei.com. It's $7.99. It teaches you how to buy property for $50 from the state, and you turn around and sell it on eBay for $300, $400, $500. It's just a constant churn. It's a real easy little business to do. It's 21-page, easy read. So it's a good way to get people started with very low barrier entry.
There you go. Anybody listening, I think it'd be foolish not to spend a couple dollars and, get involved in real estate.
Awesome. Perfect. Thanks again, guys, so much for joining us. This was great.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.